this.
I don't think
credits.
he's a Knight of Ren. I think that the Knights come from his philosophy.
Kymir, well, one of the ways he trains is through seduction. He uses
He's the Rizzler.
He is. Valdemnik was an ocean planet adorned with rocky tropical islands. Knowledge of the planet's rich deposits of cortosis ore fell into the hands of Sith lords Darth Tenebrous and Darth Plagueis.
Yeah, again, only what you take with you. She's having her cave moment with a helmet. What's Luke see in the cave? He sees his head in a helmet. She puts on a helmet. You hear the breathing. Like it's interesting. I'm not. What do you think that means? Do you think that she's gonna go bad?
Welcome back to Beyond the Dunes Sea, a show all about that galaxy far, far away and beyond. My name is Konnor.
And I'm Seth.
Gonna hit you with our favorite comment from last week, was from our community post today. Asked you guys, what did you think about the ACOLYTE episode 6? Had a great comment here from the Galactic Cantina. I think we got an interesting episode this week, getting a clear sign that Vernestra has some sort of relation to Kymir, possibly his old Jedi master. She seemed to know that he was behind the slaughter right away, and looking at Kymir's back scars, it looks like it could have been from Vernestra's whip saber. About that. Well, you'll have to wait till next week. No, I'm just kidding. But we'll put a pin in that because a lot of great points being made.
I think maybe we have some thoughts on that.
Yeah, but it's a nice little teaser, nice little appetizer for the talk here. I thought that was good. A lot of good stuff there.
Good to know a lot of people are on the same wavelength.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
How about just so people know what wavelengths we're on?
Yeah.
Some 1-minute reviews. Hit me.
Yeah. So,
that's encouraging.
Well, this was a lot like another Star Wars movie. All in one, all wrapped up into a little 30-minute episode.
Yeah, which Star Wars movie?
It felt a lot like The Last Jedi, with that you had two people on an island. One is teaching in a very strange way, and the other one wants to learn in a very strange way. And then there's some other stuff happening in space that I don't really care that much about. And yeah, unfortunately, you got to divide the movie up or the episode up into 3 pieces because there's 3 different stories all going on, but I only care about one part of the story. So that kind of makes it a tough watch. So it is a little crazy that coming off that crazy high of last week's episode, it felt a lot like I was watching Kenobi again. Hashtag I'm not sorry.
Oh, in a good way. So you liked it then?
No. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So for me,
you can say ditto because I know
So
I know we had similar thoughts.
The show's a lot about yins and yangs.
Yeah.
You know, the good with the bad, the light and the dark.
Yeah.
The light within the dark within the light.
Peaks and valleys.
Peaks and valleys. And, I was like, when the show started, we'll see where this goes. Episode 3 hits, and I'm like, oof.
What we doing?
We hit a pothole here.
Yeah.
Then, episode 4 and 5. Hey, now. It felt like a roller coaster. Episode 4 was like, oh, yeah, it's that anticipation.
Yeah.
All right. Oh, I can't wait to get to the top. And then episode 5 hit. Episode 6, that car slammed into a brick wall. And I hope we get the car started again, to be honest with you. But at this point, I don't know because
there's only 2 episodes left.
It's and it's weird because the last 3 Star Wars shows have had the same problem, but this one is made even worse because this has had pacing issues from day one.
Mm-hmm.
But Ahsoka, it rode up until episode 6 and about the same deal.
Yeah.
It kind of
episode 5.
Whoosh. No, episode 5 was the Anakin episode.
Yeah.
So it was the one after that. And it was whoosh, plateau.
Yep.
And it had to build its momentum again. Bad Batch, same thing.
I know.
Slammed right up. And then we get to that Juggernaut episode. And then we're kind of spinning wheels for a little bit.
Yeah.
And here, I'm like, I don't get it.
Yeah.
And I, exactly like you, as soon as I finished the episode, I'm like, I feel kind of like I just watched The Last Jedi. I liked about a third of this.
Yeah.
Another third I really didn't like, and then another third I just didn't care about.
Mm-hmm.
And that super sucks because I was riding high off of last week.
Yeah.
I made a joke back when our episode 3 coverage, because we weren't so hot on that episode either. And I was like, I made a joke that when I sat down to watch it, I was like, hey, it's garbage variety hour, and I was just playing, guys, just making a joke about it. But this time I was really looking forward to it. I couldn't wait. And I was playing Elden Ring because I'm playing through the DLC. I'm a huge fan of that game. And like, I actually put that aside, which if you know me personally, to get me off of that game takes some effort. So I was like, hey, I gotta watch Acolyte because I gotta know what happens next.
Yeah.
And I literally got done. I told my wife, I was like, I want to look some stuff up about Elden Ring. But I just, So that's where I'm at with it. I know that was way longer than a minute, but
yeah.
We'll see you next week, guys. Hopefully next week's good. No, hey, quick disclaimer. Again, just because you guys know how it is with the Acolyte and the discourse. Just because we didn't like this episode, if you liked it, we're glad you liked it. We're not going to give you the whole speech again. We're just going to say, if you liked it, we're glad you liked it. We're not going to yuck your yum. Let us know why you liked it. And that's great. Glad you liked it.
We liked aspects of this episode.
Yeah.
I think that's rough to say. I think that it was not a solid episode overall. Great moments, though.
And that's how I would describe The Last Jedi.
Yeah.
Funny enough.
Yes.
It's funny, the parallels.
Yeah.
This is how I would describe this show, really. So there's been a lot of like articles that have been coming out the past several weeks. There's Inverse had a good one. Entertainment Weekly had a good one. This week just dropped today, right before recording this, was one from Collider. I'm going to be reading a lot from it today. Another great article where we get some great insights from Leslie Headland. And it is so clear that she is like a super fan, like a super nerd of Star Wars.
Mm-hmm.
Like she knows deep cut stuff.
Yeah.
And that's cool. But I think this is a great example that it's like, just because you have great ideas, you have great Star Wars ideas, doesn't mean that it's going to translate to a TV show.
It's true.
And I want to give her the benefit of the doubt. And maybe this would be a great movie.
Or a good book.
Or a good book.
Or a good comic.
But as a TV show, it's just not hitting because the pacing is atrocious in this show. It's the worst of any Star Wars show, bar none, for sure. Like even Book of Boba Fett, that came to a dead stop for the Mandalorian episodes.
It even stopped covering their main character.
I thought that the pacing was better in that show.
Mm-hmm.
Because what's frustrating in this show, like just to give an example, this mystery on Brendock, right? Soul knows something. He is stopped 4 separate times over the course of 3 episodes now from spilling the beans on this by some arbitrary thing.
Yeah.
That is so frustrating as an audience member. So the first time he's like, in episode 4, Osha, when we get back to the ship, I will tell you everything. Uh-oh, the stranger appears. Okay, all right, whatever. Good. The next episode, there's darkness. Why won't you tell me? I promise I will explain everything. Okay, now's a good time. I don't know, like, why not right now?
Yeah.
Okay, now we're on the ship. Him and May. He doesn't know it's May. He thinks it's Osha, right? Yeah. We'll talk about that. There, he's about to spill the beans. Oh no, the lights turn on.
Yeah.
You can't take an extra 5 minutes, Soul, and just tell her the information. You've waited long enough, right? Yeah. And then at the very end of the episode, then it's like a filmmaking fake out.
Yep.
Oh, we're going to cut the black. I'm like, guys, there's not enough content for a TV show. There's just not. Like, if you have to arbitrarily stretch out this mystery this long, there's not enough here. Mm-hmm. Either make the episodes, make it 6, like Kenobi, another show that I criticize that, even though I love it, that it should be a movie.
It's way too long.
It was 6 episodes.
And that was too much.
And it was also too much.
Way too much.
Yes.
This reminded me of that. I know I said that at the top, but like, we're like, you would get those peaks and then like you dip back down.
Where like slow its own momentum.
Yeah, because not enough happens in the following episode. Yes.
This is worse though, in my opinion,
I
because
agree.
Like you can, now that we're starting to get a full picture of what this story is, you can see it has a movie structure.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we're in Act 3 now, and it's like you can see that we're in the Dark Night of the Soul kind of moments, right? And that was all led by the big Act 2 moment, the apex of Act 2 being Chimere slaughtering the Jedi.
Yeah.
And it's like there were these moments, it's clear, like these great moments that were plotted out. But we got to fill all this space though.
Yeah.
So what do we do?
This is a TV show.
Yeah, we got to fill it here, and we got to do this, and we got to do this. And I'm like, man, that's a bummer. And it's made even worse because it's a mystery. Like at least Kenobi.
Yeah.
When you're spinning wheels, we can have a little bit of fun because we love the character of Obi-Wan because he's established, and we like Anakin. And at worst, it's boring, right? But here, it's frustrating because it's a mystery, and you want to know what happens next. I've heard a lot of criticism, or rather, response to this criticism saying like, this would be so much different if they just released all the episodes at once. It's like, maybe because there'd be less time here, but this problem's still there. There's still too much time. Yeah. You're still spinning your wheels too long. So that's kind of where it's frustrating to me.
I gotcha.
It's frustrating to me. What do you think
about that?
Yeah. Like the pacing.
Yeah, I think it clearly should be a movie. It is odd because I'm like, were we going to get to the point where it's like, what's going to be our finale now? Because again, we've got 2 episodes left and we don't even know how long those episodes are going to be. Like, they're probably going to be under 50 minutes because that's just how they do things. And I'm like, that's just not a lot of time to finish stuff. Mm-hmm. And I know that they've talked about multiple seasons, but at the same time, they may not be guaranteed. But also
she's throwing everything at this season. Yes. So we know that this is going to have a hard stop.
Yes.
It's like,
so,
and that's the other thing is like this episode, it felt like nothing happened, but also moved at a breakneck pace. It was very strange because you have these A, B, and C plot lines we're following in less than a half hour.
Yeah.
And I'm like,
well, plot A is going really well, but B and C aren't moving very well at all.
Exactly. Like you have, You have Chimere and Osha, which great. Love it.
Give me all that.
Love almost everything that's going on.
Yeah,
there, but
I do.
We don't get, anytime it starts to get good, PowerPoint transition.
Cuts.
We're headed to the Jedi Temple for a little bit. Yeah. And I could not care less about those characters, I'll be honest. I think that, I hate to say it, I don't want to sound mean, but it's like, this feels the most like Star Wars television. And when I say that, it means like it feels like low budget. I've heard the word CW Star Wars thrown around a lot.
Yeah.
I hate to say it, but I see it.
Yeah.
Like this guy who is supposed to be a Jedi Master opposite of Vernestra. What is his name? Mog? Like, who is this guy? Like he
the
looks
one
like,
that just shows up and he has like the little kind of top knot thing going on. Yeah.
He looks like he's just like a college student and like he's like some Jedi Master. Now they've done this twice. They did it with Torben.
Yeah.
And I truly hate to throw this criticism because I hate it when people say this. It felt fan filmy. Believe me, like it hurts my soul to say that about like actual live action Star Wars.
Yeah.
That's something that's pretty, because typically college students, I mean, hey, I was one. I made my own Star Wars fan films. I get it.
Yeah.
I was one of those people.
Mm-hmm.
But when everybody kind of is in that same like age bracket, which I know not everybody is, but like you have now 2 Jedi Masters, like one's got the worst like old makeup I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah.
You know, and like this guy, I'm like,
it is odd that like, you know, you're in the High Republic, make him an alien. So he just isn't just another guy.
Yeah. Yeah. And then my last major issue with this episode, the May and Soul stuff. What could have been the other third that I would have loved, because Lee Jung-jae has given this his all, his whole performance and his whole heart. And he gets a moment to really shine. Because in my opinion, this episode should have been about reeling from the consequences of last episode.
Yeah, it should have been like crazy fallout.
Yeah.
And
in a way it kind of was, but
only for moments. Yeah.
This episode has an identity crisis. And I think this whole show does, really.
Yeah.
It's like it doesn't know, like we've said this since day one, the show about the Sith.
In which this episode kind of was. There was some
Kind
really
of,
good moments with that where I'm like, this is what when they said the show, this is what I was thinking was what the conversation that's happening here, but it's so quick.
Let me read, because I pulled this for a reel last week, but let me just read this to show you guys what I'm talking about. This was an article, I believe it's from Entertainment Weekly. This was from before the show came out. From Leslie Headland, I really wanted to tell a story about the Sith. That was kind of my dream Star Wars idea, but it felt like the time period to do that would be in something pre-Phantom Menace. It seemed to be the most interesting trajectory for the Sith. How did the Sith go from the rule of 2 to being quote unquote extinct to Palpatine coming into power and the Jedi without the Jedi knowing about it? So a lot of people have asked us like, okay, why do you guys think it's the Sith? Like maybe he's a Knight of Ren and all this. Like, because we've been told this.
Yeah.
This is what has been pitched since day one, and we've barely gotten this story.
Yeah.
And now that we're finally in like the Sith has revealed himself, and there's an opportunity, we get a third of this episode kind of delving, and that stuff's great.
And it's odd too that the episode, like, so we get a third, and for some reason the episode's only 37 minutes, and 5 of that minutes is the credits, and then 1 minute of it is the
recap.
It's the recap.
I know, so it's like
it's
under 30.
yeah. So it's like,
So
what are you doing, guys?
I know.
Like,
it's like it's so frustrating.
Yeah, because I guarantee next week's gonna be real long, and then the finale is gonna be short for some weird reason.
And then next week's gonna be the other flashback.
Yes.
So it's like we already know that we're gonna be now taking away from the main time period. Now I get we're going to be getting finally Soul's perspective, and I'm excited about that. Believe me, we're finally getting that answer.
Yeah.
But it felt like this episode, it's like they wanted to slot in, okay, we want to tell this stuff about Kymir and Osha, but there's only 10 minutes worth of content here, and we don't want to cut out an episode, so let's make a bunch of stuff with Soul and May. And that stuff, not only did it feel tonally disconnected, like we had just this bumbling sort of tone with Basil, however you say it, that completely ruined the tone, I thought, of those scenes. But nothing happens. You get little character moments, glimpses.
Yeah.
And then that's it. Like the status quo is unchanged by the end of the episode. It is complete. The only thing that happens is Soul leaves.
Yeah.
That's the only thing. And that easily could have been done if it was merged with another episode.
Mm-hmm.
And so to go back to this, like kind of my final point here about being tonally inconsistent. And this hurt me the most with this episode, because I think that it actually took away from performances. So you get this moment where I actually really liked the first 2 scenes. You get the first scene with Osha. She's like looking at Kymir's pad and is like, this is like, okay, I'm down. All right, what's going on here?
Mm-hmm.
Interesting. Last Jedi vibes. Is this Octo? Is this something else? Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. Stick around. And then we cut to Soul and May. Oh, there's a little bit of mystery here. He's so distraught. Does he know that this is Osha? I don't know. A lot of intrigue, right? He's trying to contact the Jedi Council. There's a little bit of anxiety there, because as a fan, he can't, right? They can't know. They can't know about the Sith.
Exactly.
And then he has to go down and respond to the transponder. I'm on board so far. I love all this.
Mm-hmm.
He's banging on this thing and trying to get to start. And then he has a moment where he breaks down. Broke my heart. I loved it.
Yeah.
I think that Lee Jung-jae delivers a fantastic performance. Brilliant. And then it is immediately ruined by this like circus sounding music and Basil coming around a corner. And it's like, it doesn't even cut. It's in the same scene.
Yeah.
Like it doesn't even like PowerPoint transition to another planet or something.
Yeah.
It's like he's crying and like, because all of his friends just died horrible deaths.
Yeah.
But then
and he was
like,
forced to leave him on planet, basically.
Yeah. And he's like, he's crying. He's having a moment, and he's a Jedi master. He can't do that. Right. But then
no show emotion.
But then the camera's got to like, boom, 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 boom. Here he comes, like, waddling around the corner, like sniffing in the air. Oh, what's this guy doing? I got to check in with the beaver's antics.
Yeah.
I'm like, what are we doing?
Yeah.
What? I don't get that. And now I understand Star Wars has always had comic relief characters, but why take away? Like, there is a time and a place.
Yeah.
And that was not the time. And unfortunately, he kept ruining scenes.
Yeah.
And I like the character. I think he's fine. But then you had that scene with May trying to like fix stuff. That could have been really intriguing. Like, oh, this is something my sister would always do. And now I'm expected to do it. I'm always trying to follow in her footsteps. Now I have to reset Pip, and that's also kind of killing a character.
Yeah.
A lot of interesting things going on here. But nope, boom, 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 boom. Like here comes, I don't know, that's not how the music sounds, but it's how it sounded in my head. Basil walking around here.
Yeah. Like,
oh, I'm going to do this kung fu in the air.
Try and bite you. Yeah. Weren't here for it.
I hated it.
Yeah.
This is what popped in my head during this whole, when I finished the episode. I remember during our tier list episode, when we did the Star Wars movies and shows, when I pulled out Andor, you had a reaction, always stuck with me for some reason. You were like, I gave my little spiel on it, and you were like, I hate this show. And you said it in such a soft tone.
Yeah.
And I was like, I didn't expect, I never used that. I like, it's so harsh. I was surprised at how harsh a language, because like no matter how bad Star Wars is, I would never use the word hate.
Yeah.
You know?
I said I kind of hate this show.
No. You did. You did.
Yeah.
You said I kind of hate the show.
Yeah.
I kind of hate this episode.
Yeah, I got you. Dang.
Yeah, I know. I'm the hater. I'm the hater this week.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, guys. I've let you all down. I've turned to the dark side.
You're going down a path I can't follow.
So,
you know what Obi-Wan says? Don't give in to your hate.
I know.
Yeah.
I know. I'm going to try. I really hope.
All right.
There's still time to turn it around. But
there is. Let's see if we can turn this ship.
I mean, am I crazy though? Like, do you think the same about this tone? And stuff?
I do think that, because I think it's odd where, like, especially with like she killed Pip and that's just brushed over. Also, I think the idea of factory resetting, like that verbiage in Star Wars, was just that threw me off.
Real world.
Yeah, it threw me off. And then too, the fact that she had to click 2 buttons on both sides, that I'm like she's rebooting a phone. I just was like, yeah, no thanks. We could have been a little bit more clever about that. I get it that her sister's the engineer and she's not, but I mean, you could write 100 ways. World. Yes, like, you could write 100 ways to make it feel a little bit more Star Warsy.
It's a little lazy. I'm with you. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And so, yes, we could have been building tension this entire episode where like he's grieving and not reaching out in the Force. So that's how May could hide, like where she's going to kill him at multiple times and then it just doesn't because of different things. But no, it's just silly stuff and whatever.
It's such a bummer. Yeah, I feel like there are really great ideas here. Mm-hmm. Really good ideas.
Yeah.
And we're going to talk about some of them.
Yeah.
And like, because I wanted to get all this out of the way at the beginning, because I do think like on paper, there's some awesome lore stuff happening under the surface. But I think on an execution level, it's just like I said, it's whiplash. It's like some episodes, I'm like, this is hitting. But then...
So this just doesn't have the sauce. That's what you're trying to tell me.
It is some of the driest week-old chicken I've ever had when it comes to Star Wars. It sure does not have the sauce. It's got a little bit of sauce, I guess.
Okay.
Chimera and Osha, some good stuff. But it really just goes back to the comparison with The Last Jedi. It's really how I feel about that movie.
Yeah.
Like, I like a third of that. But the other third, like, I like a third I don't care about, and a third really makes me mad.
Yeah, I gotcha.
It doesn't make me mad, this show. And like, nothing makes me mad. I just find it disappointing.
Yeah.
I think there's so much potential here, and there's clearly so much love. Like, I want to be clear. I don't get behind this idea, and it frustrates me to see when I see these comments from people who don't like the show, and it's fine if you don't like it too, right? Just like it's fine if you do like it. But I see all these comments about how like, these writers hate Star Wars and like they don't like it, and like these showrunners are
actively trying to destroy it. And
I'm like, guys, that's not happening. I don't know. I don't get that mindset. First of all, like, what do you think? You just think there's a bunch of guys with like hooded cloaks around a boardroom, like, how are we going to ruin Star Wars this time, folks? Yeah. Like, how does that make them money? Like, really think about it. Like, they want to make money first and foremost.
They want to sell toys.
Like, if you want to be cynical, that's it. Like, what would make money? But also, a lot of these people want to make art. And a more plausible explanation is some of these people are just kind of bad at making art sometimes.
Yeah.
I'm that way. Some of our episodes suck. I'll be real. Like, I look back at some of them and I'm like, that we didn't hit that week.
Yeah.
Maybe this week won't hit. I don't know.
Okay.
No?
No, I like, no. No, I thought you were going to go with like your photography. That like sometimes,
that too.
That I was going to say, but like, you're always cooking better than I am. So you could look at it that way, that maybe it's just levels. Well, that's all. That like,
my point is like, it's okay. Like, I don't like this idea that just because if you don't like something, like even like right now, I'm not liking this, it doesn't mean that there's malice in the heart of the creator.
Yeah.
It just means that you didn't like it. And at worst, maybe they're not a very good storyteller. And I don't think that's the case here. I think that likely this just wasn't the medium for the type of story that they're trying to tell.
Yeah.
And that can be frustrating as a viewer, and that can be frustrating, I'm sure, as an artist, when, it's not kind of working or clicking in ways that you hoped.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm not a fan of this idea that like, these writers, they just hate it. They hate Star Wars, and they're finding all the ways they can to hate it and tear it down. It's like, no, they're not. No, nobody's doing that. I hate to break it to you. I mean, we'll call it out if we see it. Believe me, we'll be the first out here to be like, hey,
hold on.
But I just
Han Solo pointing a finger.
It is very clear that Leslie is a super fan. I mean, my goodness, some of the deep cuts she does. I just think that she falters as a storyteller sometimes, and that's
Mhm.
okay. That's okay. Like I always say, I hope she catches me on the next one.
Yeah.
So hey, let's stop being negative Nancy's for a little bit. Talk about some fun stuff.
Be some positive Pete's.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we talked about a minute ago. This episode opens with Osha waking up.
Yeah.
And walking outside, and oh man, this is an ocean planet.
It is.
Or some archipelagos. Is that the right word? Some like islands, some rocky islands.
Yeah.
Oh man, is this Octo?
My mind went there. Yeah.
Are we about to see some porgs? First Jedi Temple?
Yeah.
No,
Yeah.
it's not Octo.
Even though it looks like Octo, but
sure-
there's no porgs. Yeah.
So I do think it was meant to look like Octo
Yes.
thematically.
Well, I mean, it even says unknown.
There's unknown planet.
Yeah.
So I think now I'm going to spoil it for a moment. I do have official confirmation that this is not Octo from Leslie herself, from the Collider article that just dropped. And by the time our episode comes out, this may be old news, but I will read from that in a moment. But I had kind of deduced this anyway, because the unknown planet thing, if it was Octo, I don't see why they wouldn't just say that.
Yeah.
Because that's not a secret. Like they're not unveiling anything.
Mhm.
Like, I think there is a reason it says unknown planet for a moment. I'll bring up in a second.
Yeah.
But I think that thematically, though, it is meant to mirror Octo for sure.
Oh, yeah.
I think that
Yes.
there was a lot of intentionality behind.
A lot of the story is like Octo. Like
Yeah.
a lot of the same things are happening. Yeah. Or similar things are happening.
This was very much like The Last Jedi, for
Yes.
better or for worse.
Yeah.
And I mean, it was very intentional. And so here's what Leslie says. It's so the interviewer asks this question. So I know that this is that it says unknown planet, but it was definitely giving Octo vibes. Headland, it's not Octo. I know it's similar, and it was intentionally supposed to be similar in terms of terrain and feeling isolated and surrounded by water and less lush green and more rocky. But the idea is that cortosis is being mined on this planet. So I don't think that's the case with Octo. Part of the reason this is his home base is that cortosis is a very rare metal. I don't think we say it explicitly in the show, but that's the reason it's not Octo. Follows it up. Was it intentional to leave it as unknown planet because this is a planet that hasn't been discovered by the Jedi? That's exactly right. It's an uncharted planet they haven't mapped.
And it's probably, the cortosis is probably even hiding his presence.
It could be, yes. And a brief thing about cortosis while we're on that subject that she brought up on one of the articles from last week that I really loved. That she had some conversations with, I think maybe Pablo Hidalgo, one of the story group people, it might have been Filoni, I'm not sure, about how it was very important to take on the brittle aspect of cortosis. Because if you don't know, cortosis is a very brittle metal. So while it's very strong about deflecting lightsabers, sort of a balancing act to that is it's very brittle. So
hence why the mask broke.
Hence why it broke as soon as they punched it.
Yeah.
Which I think is great. I think that was a great call to do that, because otherwise it's like, she brought up in that same article, like, well, why not have a full suit of it? It's like, well, first, it's very rare. And second, it breaks very easy.
Yeah.
So great call.
And then two, that's why we use Beskar.
Exactly.
Yes. Yeah. Beskar is malleable. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So what, if it's not Octo, is there any hints as to what planet this might be?
Oh, I think so.
Any planets that may, any hints maybe in legends that that could point
I think
in the
maybe
right
you need to
direction?
look in the prologue of that book.
No, not the prologue.
Yeah, the very beginning.
Maybe first chapter.
Isn't the first isn't the first chapter a prologue?
Yeah, that's where he kills where Sidious kills Plagueis. Spoils you right away in the prologue.
Oh, my bad. First chapter then.
Here's how this book opens. Chapter 1, The Underworld. 47 standard years before the harrowing reign of Emperor Palpatine, Baldemnik was nothing more than an embryonic world in the Outer Rim's Ariel sector, populated by reptilian sentients who expressed as little tolerance for outsiders as they did for one another. Now, for the sake of time, I will spare you Lucino's rather poetic description of the planet and read a summary from Wikipedia, but I just wanted to let you know that it starts with this. Baldemnik was an ocean planet adorned with rocky tropical islands in the Bakrofsen system of the Ariel sector, located within the Outer Rim territories. The hostility known of its native Konnor species, together with its extremely harsh climate, discouraged most people from ever visiting the planet, despite the beauty of its giant rock cliffs, pristine beaches, and vast azure oceans. It was mostly interest to cartographers, xenobiologists, and fisherfolk until knowledge of the planet's rich deposits of cortosis ore fell into the hands of Sith lords Darth Tenebrous and Darth Plagueis.
Yeah, it was. I can't think of his name. What? Gosh darn it! What's Plagueis's? What's his fake name? What's his
Hugo Damask.
Yeah, Damask Holdings. They're the ones who bought. Didn't they buy it?
Maybe I don't remember all the specific details, but yes, they had. There's a cortosis mine on there that Plagueis. Yes, I think he did buy it. Actually.
Yep, and that's why that because now no one can really mess with the planet anymore because he's purchased it basically or whatever.
Something that the Jedi did not know about.
Exactly.
And that's why maybe it was unknown. But I mean, we see in the Acolyte in Chimere's cave, there is a cortosis vein running right through the cave.
Yes.
I think this is 100% very clearly Baldemnik, and it is another tip of the hat and another clue. We're headed right toward this book. I kept saying it. Y'all laughed at me. Y'all said I was crazy. You said I was crazy. It's coming, guys.
Yeah.
It's just a matter of how.
Yeah, exactly.
And I think that's a fun question to ask is how. Like, is Chimere Plagueis? Is he Tenebrous? Is he venomous?
Is this just the road to them?
Yeah, is he an unnamed apprentice? I think that he's connected in some way.
Yeah, I mean, we're still pretty far out from that book because it's 47 years for the rule of Emperor Palpatine. But I'm just saying
Tenebrous is still the operating Sith at this time.
Yes, in theory. Yes. So that's all I'm getting at.
Will of the Force brought up to us in our group chat that this could be the unknown Twi'lek master of Darth Tenebrous. And I pushed back a little bit thinking that this might be too far back in the timeline, but just reading that, I guess I didn't realize only 40 years before the harrowing reign of Emperor Palpatine.
Mm-hmm.
That's interesting. I didn't realize that it was...
Because a little bit of time passes, then he meets Palpatine, that
gives another 50 years. So this could be... So in the book, guys, there's an interesting passage, basically, that talks about how Darth Tenebrous had an unnamed Twi'lek master who opened basically a rift in the Force, allowing the Jedi to feel the dark side for the first time in 800 years.
Yeah.
I believe, something like that. And we keep hearing Vernestra say something along the lines of something to tip the scales. Second time she said this in this episode. Is Chimere the canonization of
that moment?
The unknown Twi'lek master? I know he's not Twi'lek, but we know nothing about this character.
Yeah.
It'd be prime opportunity. We don't even know his name.
Yeah.
Her name. We don't know anything about that character.
Other than the fact that scales were tipped and the Jedi knew the dark side of the Force was out there in some capacity.
I guess this is far enough back. I mean, fair enough. I was really on the Tenebrous train, but reading that again, I forgot that it did butt up a little closer to the prequel trilogy than I thought. Mm-hmm. I mean, you have to assume that Plagueis and Tenebrous were master and apprentice for some time because that book opens with Plagueis, spoiler alert, killing Tenebrous.
Yeah.
So there's got to be at least a couple decades there. But then, you're still playing with about 50 years.
Yeah.
There's some opportunity there, I think.
Mm-hmm.
I think the operating Sith still... Also, are we talking about 47 years before the reign of Emperor Palpatine? Are we literally Emperor Palpatine or Chancellor Palpatine? Because that's also a little bit of play there, too.
Yeah, that is, too. I would think before, the first galactic empire.
You know what's interesting? What? The opening of this show uses the same language.
Mm-hmm.
This says, exactly, before the reign of Emperor Palpatine. I never caught that. This opens the same. 47 standard years before the harrowing reign of Emperor Palpatine. This show starts that opening crawl 100 years before the reign of the Galactic Empire.
Yeah.
Neither of them start with the Phantom Menace. I guess, first of all, because, what would you say, the Battle of Naboo?
Yeah.
That'd be a weird place to start. But it is an interesting connection between this book and that. I think there are tons of breadcrumbs that this was an inspiration for Leslie for this story.
Mm-hmm.
There's no doubt about it.
Yeah.
Maybe May/Osha, whichever one, is the unnamed Twi'lek master.
Maybe.
That'd be wild.
It would be. And
we're going back that far.
The other thing, too, that I guess I wanted to bring up, well, I'll bring it up in a bit. it fits with Konnor, and then that random throwaway line that he said, like, I've been a long time ago.
Well, yeah, we'll just talk about it. Why not? Throw it out there.
So with like the Bane line, there's a thing called essence transfer, in which it's the same thing that like Palpatine did. He was transferring
another thing talked about here.
Exactly. That's mentioned a couple times. And it's like
something that was lost.
Yes. Well, yeah, it's lost.
A knowledge that was lost.
Exactly. Well, maybe it dies with Konnor. That like the whole thing is maybe Konnor was a Jedi a long time ago.
Truly and then a long time ago.
Oh yeah, that like, you know, everyone keeps bringing up that, you know, he's 37, actor's 37, 38, whatever, something like that. That maybe he's not been that age for very long. Because that maybe he just got into this body, or does that make sense? Yeah, that he just transferred himself into that body, that he's lived other lifetimes throughout other bodies. So I don't know. So that can skew the timeline a little bit too, where we don't have to worry about people like their ages of them being born and stuff like that. If he's hopping into random people's bodies and living in them for a little while and then moving on to the next one.
Then lost with Konnor.
Yeah.
That would also add a little bit of, I mean, Palpatine does imply in Tross, I am all the Sith.
Yeah. That he's got knowledge of everything.
And so it does imply that that essence transfer just naturally happens with the rule of two. Mm-hmm. And Konnor also brings that up, the power of two. And I mean, we know that.
And that's what I was kind of wondering as well, where it's like, is this like a dyad thing? Does he want the power of two, like him and another? Is it Osha and May? Is it,
I got another quote.
Oh,
do you want another quote?
Sure. Hit me with another quote.
Leslie, yes, I think the concept of a force dyad is very important to the story, even if it isn't necessarily name checked, because I think that the Sith are much more aware of what a dyad is. And I think the Jedi haven't figured that out yet in terms of how powerful that particular relationship between two force sensitive beings could be. There are many things in the High Republic that the Jedi would consider mythology or lack the language to describe, whereas the Sith know they exist. I think the Sith are also tuned into some aspects of the Force and ways to manipulate the Force that the Jedi are just not tuned into yet. The interviewer replies, which makes so much sense too, because the Jedi are textbook Force users, whereas the Sith are like, whatever feels right, the vibes, man, picking up on the vibes of the Force. And then Leslie replies, and I do think that the Sith, in their hiding right now, are basically trying to collect as many sources of power as they can because they don't have thousands upon thousands of members. And I do think the witches of Brendok feed into that. They have an enormous amount of power, that coven. So when Konnor brings up the power of two, and before this, Leslie does say that, yes, the power of two is referring specifically to that relationship between two Sith. Mm-hmm. And that's what Konnor desires, is having an acolyte and sharing in that. So I think that what Leslie is implying here is that by nature of the relationship between two Sith, they create a dyad between them.
Yeah.
And that's incredibly fascinating. And so they create an artificial dyad, I think.
Yeah.
And so they're trying to chase this
concept.
And I do kind of like this idea that like the Jedi don't have language to describe this, and they don't even know because they're so dogmatic that they're not even
they're not going to get close enough to another person. And it's interesting too that like, do you think?
Well, you just hit on a really interesting thing right there. What you just said,
what?
Like, well, the Jedi are. I meant that the Jedi are so dogmatic that they wouldn't even look for other explanations. But what you just said about how they don't allow their relationships.
Exactly, they can't love. They can't like,
but a Sith does, and so.
But here's the other thing. But like some Sith are so evil that I don't even think that they are capable of love. Like I don't think that Palpatine's capable of love, and that's why a dyad in the Force. Like what I mean? Like it's just like yeah. Like,
and what does he say? The power of two restores the one true Emperor.
Yeah,
that's incredibly fascinating.
Yeah,
what I think you're onto something there because Konnor, one of the ways he trains is through seduction. He uses one of the negative emotions.
He's the Rizzler.
He is. He uses the power of literal seduction.
Yeah.
And I mean, seduction and desire can come from a negative emotion. I mean, the Sith draw on, I shouldn't say negative emotion per se, because the Sith
very
draw
physical.
The Sith draw on powerful emotion, strong emotion, and like the Jedi stay away because
fleeting emotions too, where it's like it's over. Yeah.
Well, the Jedi stay away because they can take you down bad paths. Like anybody, I mean, desire can be a great thing.
Yeah.
Like, especially like in the context of a marriage, desire could be a great thing.
Yeah.
Outside and beyond, it could take you to a bad place.
Oh, definitely. And George Lucas,
He has
the
a great
maker,
quote about this.
he does. It's talking about the difference between joy and pleasure.
Does.
And it's like, you got to be careful chasing pleasure, because the more you chase it, the more you want.
Mhm.
And like joy, once you get actual joy, which I think that's kind of like what the Jedi tried to do.
Yeah.
Is that like, once you have joy, it's going to sustain you forever.
Yeah.
But yeah, that like some people, like the Sith, are constantly chasing that pleasure, whatever it is,
Mhm.
you know, whether it be like,
Well, it's very surface level.
yeah,
right?
that's
And I
what I'm
think
saying. It's this. And as we've talked about before, that like the Sith are stuck in this plane of existence. They don't get to live on. And they are all about staying on this plane of existence because they know that there really isn't an end game for them.
Yeah, the Sith are all about indulgence, right? So like they want to indulge, and that's what's so enticing, right? They want to indulge their animalistic will. There's concepts for this, and I'm struggling for the words. There's like your higher will, right, and then your rational will, and then there's kind of like your sort of fundamental, like almost animalistic will. And like as a human being, like it's just basic, like in philosophy, right? And there's a word for that animalistic will that's escaping me, but it's your job to kind of tamper that down in a lot of ways, right?
Yeah.
Like you may be a person who's like, you see a dozen donuts, right? And you're like, I could slam those down right now.
But you choose not to.
Not a good idea though, right? For a myriad of reasons.
You make yourself sick.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so
what about sharing with other people? Yeah.
There's a ton of reasons why you would. And that goes to many other aspects of life, right?
Yeah.
But it doesn't mean donuts are bad, right? No, of course not.
No.
And so that's why the Sith are so enticing, is because they see that as like, hey, why are the Jedi trying to put you down, man?
Yeah.
You know, like freedom.
Feel the force.
Yeah, take all that in, like desire, all that, like all those emotions, just draw into. Why are the Jedi trying to keep you from that? But the Jedi say, no. We know that those exist.
Yeah, but fear leads to anger. Anger leads to hate. Hate leads to what? Suffering.
And when you brought up joy, right?
Yeah.
Joy is a deep emotion. It's not happiness. Joy and happiness are different, right? Happiness is a fleeting emotion.
Yeah,
I could almost see the Sith drawing on happiness. Yeah. Right. But joy is something deeper. It's something that you get from, it's more everlasting, right?
Yeah.
Joy is not, you don't always feel happy when you feel joy.
No.
Right?
Joy
like
can,
it comes from something very deep. And that's why ultimately the Jedi are correct, even though some Jedi have a more surface level understanding perhaps of what all this means. I think this is actually an interesting conversation to have between the Jedi and the Sith.
Yeah.
It extends into real world stuff too, right?
Well,
Because I mean, there are some Jedi who I think would take that as a way to control and as a way to push down. But the more enlightened Jedi would say, no. We're not doing that to control and to tamper down on your desire and all these things.
It's ultimately to be selfless as well, because this
is what is best for you and those around you.
It's true. And then like the Sith freeing you, it's actually caging you.
Exactly.
Yeah. It's kind of weird to think about, because then now you're in the whole, you're stuck in the cage of just that you are being selfish.
Exactly.
Yeah. And that's not good either.
I mean, this is real world stuff here. We're talking about. This is what's
again, like, that's the part of this episode I really liked.
Yeah. Because what Konnor is saying is so enticing.
It is. It's interesting what he's saying.
And like,
well, he's also risen it up with no clothes on. Yeah.
But isn't that like that's the devil right there?
It is.
Like that's Lucifer. He's that's often how he's portrayed, right? He's the good looking, slick looking angel.
Yeah.
Right? He's got the honeyed words. He's going to say what you want to hear. And there's even maybe a hint of truth there.
Yeah.
Right? Because but
it takes you down a bad path.
Yeah. To paraphrase a Bible quote, right? Like even the devil knows scripture.
Yeah.
And like even Konnor knows the Force, but he's manipulating, and he knows how to poke, and he knows how to prod, and he's like,
it's really interesting too that they've implied too that he's a Jedi, like also like a fallen angel, that like he knows. Oh, he knows all about, but like my way's better now. I want to just show you my way. That's really, that's an interesting thought.
Yeah.
That like, the devil came from above.
Yeah.
That like even Konnor came from, with the best intentions.
Well, that's what makes, I mean, the worst villains, I think that's what they make, because you can sympathize.
Oh yeah.
Konnor, if he was a Jedi, it makes him even more dangerous.
Yeah.
Like that's what makes Palpatine fascinating, is because he wasn't a Jedi.
No.
So in a way, like that's what we always talk about, right? With Palpatine's fatal flaw, he cannot love.
No.
And so that's why he is beaten, is because he doesn't understand the concept. And so Vader could never beat Palpatine out of hate, but he could out of love.
Yeah.
And that's the genius of episode 6 in that moment.
Mm-hmm.
Konnor, on the other hand, I don't know that you could beat him that way. Because,
no, I think he could probably see through that. And I think he is capable of love.
And that's what makes him, he's got that extra layer to him, because if you were a Jedi, right, then you have those extra faculties for some of those deeper emotions. You just reject them.
Yeah.
But it doesn't mean you don't know them. It doesn't mean you don't understand them.
Yeah.
And I think that that's really important. But it's also, I think, important, like as a viewer, to see kind of these deeper concepts, right? Because these are real world things. It's like, hey, don't be bought into the honeyed words and the, this slick looking guy in front of you here.
Yeah.
He's
they wanted him to play Ken in the Barbie movie.
Really?
One of them. Yeah. Pretty wild.
I did not know that. That's funny.
Yeah.
And by the way, speaking of him, Manny Jacinto, the performance. I forgot just the dichotomy of his performances, Konnor versus the stranger. Now, if that's what we're calling him, it's a 180. It's really cool. He's playing two different characters, and he deserves a lot of credit for that. It's really neat.
It is cool to see him turn it on and turn it off. Yeah, it gets scary for a moment, and then he turns back to being nice.
There's a line that I forgot about from the second episode on Olega when he's talking to Sol and Yord, where he's trying to throw everybody off him, and like, oh, May's going this way, right? And he's like, you're not going to do that Jedi mind wipe thing on me, right? And they're like, no. And, they leave. There's something to that. Is he even then, is he manipulating?
Oh, I think he is.
Is he prodding, know?
I think he is.
Because did Sol do that?
Yeah.
And is he kind of poking Sol like, I know you did this. You know? And I'm just having fun. I'm just poking you because I know I can right now.
Yeah. Sol brings up that conversation. That or in the episode.
Because how didn't he sense him?
Yeah, exactly. He didn't sense the darkness. It's wild.
It's cool. And that was another great moment from Sol. Because I know a lot of people are going to latch on to like, how didn't Sol sense May? And I think that's it. It's because his head is so consumed by, how did I not see this?
Yeah.
When literally the same thing is unfolding right in front of him.
Yeah.
I think that's interesting for a character like Sol, because he gets in his own head so much.
And I think too that he's just like, you're bringing up all that grief from 16 years ago as well. Like all that's just stacking on, and it's just getting worse and worse. And then on top of all that, all of his friends are dead. Yeah. So like, I get that, like, sure, he's not reaching out in the Force at this moment. Yeah. He's just trying to get out of there.
That's another thing. It drives me nuts. Like the Force is not like, it doesn't just give answers. You know what I mean? Like he's not just going to be sitting there and then the Force isn't going to be like, hey, Sol, by the way, that's not OSHA. That's not OSHA. Yeah. Like you have to put your mind out.
Yeah.
Put your feelers out.
I was going to say, you got to kind of touch the ether and hopefully it comes back to you. Yeah.
And that's just not on his mind right now to do that, because he's like, hey, I got OSHA back to the ship. Yeah. She's safe. Yeah. Her hair looks the same. I'm not worried about it right now. Like my friends are dead. I need to contact the Jedi Council. And I think we can forgive him for that. Yeah. That's the other thing, guys. This is another thing that drives me nuts. Characters can make mistakes. Yeah. Right. And like Sol makes a mistake by not doing his due diligence. Yeah. So this is the stuff I dug. This is the stuff that I like.
And I'll be real with you. This is why I like Star Wars. Right there, that little conversation that we had, that was really interesting. Like, we didn't really have that plan. That just kind of took
we were completely off script.
Yeah, we were completely off script. But I liked where we went. So like that's why I like Star Wars. I like the when it relates to real life in that way. Yeah, not like forced reboots and things like that. But yes, where we can apply Star Wars to real life situations.
We've always said like Star Wars, I think, works best when it's a tentpole story, where it's like, it's something that you can look at and say, hey, this is like, let me teach you about a real world concept. Yeah.
It's a learning tool.
Now, I don't think, however, it should venture into agenda territory. Yeah. And so far, I don't think we've gotten there yet. I know a lot of people are accusing the show of that. We've gotten close. We've gotten close to the line, especially if you look at some interviews and stuff. I'm not going to get into it. Yeah. But so that's not what I mean when I say real world. I mean more fundamental concepts. I don't mean political concepts. I mean fundamental
live in life.
Yeah. How to be a good person concepts. Yeah. Right. Like that goes beyond.
We're talking like tales and myths, like that sort of thing. Sort of thing. Yes. Campfire, like what you would tell around a campfire to your kids or those who would listen. Exactly. Yes.
And the only reason I brought that up is just because I didn't want people to hear that and be like, oh yeah, but they're pushing, but they are doing that. Like, that's not what I mean. Yeah. It goes beyond that. It goes beyond the social issues of today, because that changes by the minute.
Yeah.
You know, it goes there. There are things that are more fundamental, and there are timeless things that we can learn as human beings. And I think that when Star Wars is at its best, when any story is at its best, really, that's what it's doing. Is it's teaching you something about your condition and how to be a better person, or
how not to act.
I was gonna say, or by inverse, you know, by like by how to mirror a character or how not to act. Like Breaking Bad is a really great show because it shows you some of like the worst aspects of humanity. Yeah. Right. And
how you can have the best intentions.
Yeah.
And it just falls apart. Yeah.
Yeah. So that was good stuff. Good stuff. So I'm going to try to find our way back into this a little bit. So thinking about Vernestra in the Jedi at this time, I think that we got an interesting nugget of info in her first scene. She's talking to this hologram, talking about Ravencourt. What was his name? Do you have it written down? Ravencourt. Yeah. So we got a little bit of information like that. Hey, we gotta worry about what the Senate thinks because the Senate has a lot of pull on what the public is going to think of the Jedi. Yeah. And we're sowing a lot of seeds for not only how they're going to cover this up, but how the galaxy could so easily turn on the Jedi come Order 66.
It also felt an awful lot like that book as well, where like Plagueis his plan is to try to tackle things from both sides, basically. Yeah. Where it's like, oh no, we're going to have a foot in the Senate as well.
Yep. Well, he wants to, because Plagueis doesn't want to become chancellor, but he's like, I'm going to create a puppet.
Yeah. And then we'll do it together. Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. I think all that's really interesting what they're doing there. I hope that has a nice payoff, because really the rest of the stuff with Vernestra I thought was kind of lame, to be honest with you. I thought the little nod to her in hyperspace, like her getting sick in hyperspace, was a nice, even though for me, because I haven't read the books, I thought it was a nice payoff for High Republic fans, because as I understand, she has visions in hyperspace. Okay. That's why she gets sick. So a nice little like, oh man, I know what that means. Like it was a nice a reward for the High Republic fans. So it was funny when I heard that. I was actually a little annoyed by it, because I was like, man, I didn't read those books. I don't know what that meant. And then I had to stop myself. I'm like, that wasn't for me. Yeah. Take a step back. Yeah. That was for those people who read the books.
Maybe eventually you'll read those books.
Yeah. I'm mildly interested. Yeah. So I thought that was nice. That was a nice little, I like it when deep cut things are rewarded for fans. Yeah. Because like it
makes it seem like it's the same character.
Yeah. 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 And we get a lot of, I think that's nice. I like that other character, Mog, immediately blames Soul, because what other conclusion would he draw? I mean, when you get there, there's lightsaber wounds. Yeah. Somebody very powerful had to have stopped them. The only person not there is Soul. It's the only person you can't get a hold of. He's also you can't find the assassin. It
is odd though that he's trying to contact them. So yeah, that like, this all started because he tried contacting. So if he was the one who's guilty, why is he even contacting people?
Good question. Yeah. Good question. So how do you think we're wrapping this up? How are they covering this up?
I think that so I think Soul's going to get there. I think Vernesta is also going to show up. And then I think that like
show up where?
They're going to all end up like in the same place. Yeah, probably on Brendok. That like, they'll use Osha as a beacon or whatever. May is going to be able to find Osha through reaching out in the Force and be able to, the tuning forks will come into a line or whatever, and they'll be able to find it. And I assume somehow hyperspace tracking or some way Vernestra is going to be able to find a way. Vernestra? Is that Vernestra is going to find a way there, and she'll find a way to cover it all up. Just make it, that none of this happened. That like they all died in some mining accident or something like that. Yeah.
I think that what gets me is Vernestra's, she said it twice now, something to tip the scales. Like, I don't know what that means.
I really hope that she's not really the Sith. I
don't think so. I think here's my
your thought.
Here's my thought. And we're really getting off script for me. Yeah. So it's okay. I'm a very structured person, guys. So like that's why I'm so bothered, but it's okay. It's okay. I like the free flow conversation. So Kymir brings up that he was a Jedi from a long time ago. We brought up maybe the essence transfer. Yeah. There's a lot of questions to be asked there. Like, first of all, is he lying?
Yeah. He could be.
Is he not really a Jedi? Is he just trying to sympathize with Osha to get her to turn? It's possible. But if he really is a Jedi, that's interesting. Yeah. Because if he was cast out by both Jedi and Sith, That gives him a lot of reason for his motivation.
Yeah.
But he has scars on his back that do suspiciously look like a whip.
Yeah.
And there is no other reason other than just fan service to show Vernestra's light whip in this episode.
Yeah.
First of all, the thing, she whips out a freaking Pringle can to get this thing activated. I don't know why they made that thing so thick. She couldn't even wrap her fingers around it.
I know.
I don't get that.
Yeah. And then I thought it was silly too, of all things she killed was Number Moth. Because like they showed us in episode 4, that's why like it was daylight. And they showed that like that's why it was dangerous out at night. It's like because these things along with other things. So it's like, why is one out during the day? Whatever, it's fine.
Yeah, it was goofy.
Yeah, just
it felt like they had to force a way to show us that light whip.
Yeah,
and we're also showing us that scar. That's definitely not a lightsaber scar.
No, definitely not. Because she was like a stab wound. I'm like, it doesn't look like a stab at all.
It also
you just saw several stabs.
Right.
Yeah.
I think that some people are pointing toward force lightning, but I don't think it looks like that either.
Well, we don't know what like force lightning scarring looks like outside of like Palpatine's.
It looks like a real lightning. Have you ever seen a real lightning scar? It doesn't look like that.
Yeah, I guess so. I was just thinking like, who have we seen that's been hit by lightning and like, you know,
I mean Palpatine, but
Anakin and Obi-Wan have both, or Anakin's been hit by lightning too, and it didn't really. Yeah, and Luke.
But yeah, like that's true. It didn't leave any mark on him. That's a good point.
Mm-hmm.
I would think that
Palpatine, I think, was hiding his face.
I was about to say, I've always been of the opinion that was just
like
he slyly was just letting the dark side fall.
Yes.
I'm of the opinion that this could be a light whip. So the question is then, did Vernestra whip him? Like, was he her Padawan?
Mm-hmm.
I say no.
Yeah.
I think
they encountered each other at one point in time. Yeah.
Yep. Here's my thought. I think they encountered each other in a fight. Fought. Vernestra got a solid strike on Chimere.
Yeah.
Sensed something, but didn't act on it. Let them get away.
Mm-hmm.
And it's been in her head ever since.
Yeah.
And now she's projecting all of that on Sol, because Sol did the same thing. He did something on Brendock. He didn't say anything about it. And now she's all mad about it, hiding things from the Jedi Council, because now if Sol brings it up, I think she senses it.
Yeah.
She's like, this is all going to come back to me.
Yeah. That it all comes back to that one decision that she let him go or something like that. Yeah.
Something to tip the scales. Maybe that's something Chimere said.
Yeah.
Like that he was, and maybe she was like, this is just some idiot kid who's messing around with the dark side. She was going to put him down, but maybe because Jedi don't attack the unarmed, she wasn't going to execute him.
She showed mercy.
And maybe she went too far. Maybe that was something that haunted her, is like, I whipped this kid.
Yeah.
I shouldn't have done that. Like that was too far. I've been haunted by this.
Which would be another Last Jedi kind of thing.
Yeah.
Which would be
like a fleeting shadow. But
exactly.
She actually did it.
Went through with it. Yeah.
So I think that went
through as much as went through it more than what Luke did.
Right. Like it actually struck him.
Yeah.
But I think that actually deepens the character quite a bit. And it does lay precedence for the cover up even more, because as of right now, the High Council doesn't know anything about Kofar, doesn't know any of this.
Yeah.
And it's like, why is she going to such lengths to obscure this particular incident?
Yeah.
And if this is why, it could be she senses, oh man, this is all going to lead back to me.
Yeah.
And it can't lead back to me because she feels guilty.
Yeah.
And also,
she's too important at this point now.
Yeah.
Because she's clearly like just under the High Council. I feel like her.
Yeah, she's got a lot of
clout.
I was about to say that. She's got a lot of, I couldn't find the word. Got a lot of clout. But I think it adds some. And what if Sol finds out about this? That's another thing to kind of tip him toward darkness. It's like, now you did the same thing. Like, you knew and you didn't say anything. Like, you could have saved my team.
Who can I trust now? Yeah, I can't trust anybody. Yeah, that sort of thing. Yeah.
Maybe
start spiraling.
Exactly. He could just keep going down that path. Like my Padawan could have survived all of this because you didn't say something. And maybe this ends with Sol killing Vernestra. That's maybe. I think there's a non-zero chance that Sol turns by the end of this.
Yeah.
And maybe he could be like a secondary villain.
Yeah.
So that's my thought on Chimere and the Light Whip.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I think that you're right. I mean, like, why they've been pretty heavy-handed so far with stuff.
Yeah.
Why stop now? So,
not to pat ourselves on the back or anything, but we've had our batting average has been pretty good on these speculation. For
it's true. It's true.
So, but I think the key though, the difference, because a lot of people are saying that this comes from the Light Whip, so we're not unique in that. But I think that he was not her Padawan. I don't think.
No, I think that he encountered her at some point. Yeah.
But if he was her Padawan, to go through that angle for a minute, I think it would be interesting if he was friends with Soul.
Yeah.
When Soul was a Padawan, and maybe they all knew each other, and maybe something happened.
You should bring up her age because she's very old.
She's like over 100.
Yeah.
Right?
So that's how you can the actress may not be that old, but
but her species can live a long time.
Exactly.
Yes.
So she's been around through the High Republic stories and stuff like that. Yeah. And invented the saw the light whip in a dream and then created it. And
MORTISFM had a great short. Go check that out if you want a little bit of just a little bite-sized history about the light whip. It's good stuff. But I like the idea if he did know Soul as a Padawan. Maybe something happened where everybody's minds were wiped. Yeah. Except for Chimere's. Maybe he did it by accident. Because it does seem odd to me still that last episode.
He just threw that out there?
Yeah, he was like, you don't remember me?
Yeah.
Are you really just talking about Olega? Because you got a mask on right now.
It is true.
If you were trying to not risk exposure, why are you trying to goad him into saying you remember? Do you remember
asking me? Yeah.
I don't get it. There got to be something more there.
Yeah.
Unless he's talking about Brendock. It's the other thing.
Yeah.
Are we talking about Brendock?
I don't know. I mean, I want him, I'll be honest, I want him to be on Brendock. I want him at the tree. I'm kind of thinking now he's not going to be at the tree, but I want him there.
I don't know.
I think he'd be sick if he was there waiting. Yeah.
Is he a Knight of Ren? Is he a Knight of Ren? Because we got the theme again at the very end.
So
of this,
I don't think
credits.
he's a Knight of Ren. I think that the Knights come from his philosophy.
Okay.
That their way of thinking. Because as you said, that they're very free flowing, but they do tend to kind of stray more. They're kind of if we're looking at yin yangs, they're like the Qui-Gon of the dark side, that they're free flowing, but Qui-Gon still stays towards the light. They stay towards the dark, but the Force really guides them. Yeah. Yeah. But no, I think that he's the first Ren, if you will. I think that's why. That if I was a betting man, that he isn't a Ren, but Ren's philosophies come from him.
So the thing that gets me about this is they've been very clear about this Kylo Ren theme. It means something. It's coming up. She said that in the interviews. Yeah. But they've also said he is a Sith Lord multiple times.
Yeah, and Rens aren't Sith.
People are getting really hung up on what he says in the last episode. A Jedi you might call me Sith. It's well, I didn't say he was a Sith, man. Yeah. Guys, they've been they could not be more clear. Just because the character is not being clear. Yeah. Everything else is saying this.
Because the actors are saying it too.
Yes.
Yeah.
So he was a Sith and it's screw this.
Yeah.
I'm going to go do my own thing.
Yeah.
I'm tired of being the outcast. I'm going to create a group where we can all be outcast together. Because I do think it's interesting when he starts being asked about all of the brutalities. Osha's you killed all these Jedi, all my friends. He's like, I killed Jedi. Yeah. Those people suck. Yeah. Sorry.
He basically was passing off. It's it was self-defense at that point because they were going to try and kill me ananyway. So, or they would have done the same to me.
Yeah, those people don't want me to exist. So, they're a threat to my existence. I do what I have to do. Yeah. Sorry. Yeah. I'm not a threat to you because you don't want to kill me. At least not right now, Yeah. Then there was, a lot of stuff with the lightsaber and, a lot of innuendo going on there too with him being in the nude.
Yes. Which what do you think about that? Seduction in Star Wars, I guess. Have you ever encountered that at all? With any of your because it comes up
it's a PG-13 rated show.
We're going to keep it PG-13. Konnor, you just had a baby. I don't need to explain that to you. It's we're the homies at home. Come on. Anyway, you're old enough. Anyway, it just reminded me of in Legacy of the Force, Cade falls to the dark side and Darth Talon, which you know who that is.
Yeah, she's
scantily clad red. Think Darth Maul if he was a Twi'lek and didn't wear a lot. And
excuse me, just scantily clad.
Yeah, scantily clad, didn't wear a lot of clothes. Okay, and she makes him fall to the dark side, or her feminine wise helps with his turn basically because how she's showing him how the dark side works, that it's very physical with fighting and healing and finding shatter points in people and stuff like that. Cause that's the whole thing is Cade can shatter point and then he can also do the opposite. He can find shatter points where you've been hurt and heal them. Does that make sense? And then it can open them back up if he needs to. So I guess that I liked how that was written better than how this was, rather than him just kind of being
I just think we don't have enough
naked.
time. That's all. That's the main thing.
Yeah.
Right? We just don't have enough time in this.
Yeah.
Like we said at the beginning, we get a third of the episode.
Yeah.
And even being generous with an average, we get 10 minutes to tell this part.
Yeah.
And if you break that down, we get what, 2 minutes to tell that part of the story?
Yeah.
We just don't get enough time.
Yeah.
But yeah.
It's just kind of, it's just like in your face. Like
I'm going to really tip my hand here on some of my more hotter takes. And this isn't just a Star Wars take. This is a cinema take in general. I think you got to walk a line with this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Especially in Star Wars, but like in movies in general. I mean, there's no doubt about it. Like sexuality in film, in movies and TV shows is gone overboard. Like so overboard.
No, I got you.
I think there was something to older movies that with the power of implication. And like there, and I know a lot of you are going to be like, oh man, you clutching your pearls over here. You know, it's the year 2024. And I'm like, whatever. Yeah. I think that there's something.
I think that, less is more.
Well, here's why. And I think this is the big difference is because, so like in the previous episode, there's a lot of murdering other people, right?
Yeah.
That's fake. Obviously.
Yeah.
Right. You're not really sticking hot light sticks through people and killing them.
Yeah. Not using a mystical energy to pull and make more people on your light skewer. Yeah.
But when you're doing like these more intense sort of intimate scenes, there's only so much you can fake.
Yeah.
And I think that puts actors in compromising positions that I don't like. I know there are like intimacy coaches and stuff like that. This is really getting in the weeds of like filmmaking and when it comes to this type of content. Yeah. And I know this doesn't go very far.
No,
but I'm saying that like,
and I mean, let's be honest, he was wearing clothes. They just made it seem like he wasn't.
I know. And yes, he was
movie magic.
He was, but I just think that like there's a line is all I'm saying. Yeah, there's a line to walk.
I think you. They got Star Wars. It's not in the, I was going to say, it's not in all 9 movies. We even had a love story.
Yeah.
With 7, 8, and 9.
They got close to the line, I guess is my point. And, but they didn't cross it, I don't think.
No.
I don't think they crossed it.
No, and I don't think so.
But I do think you have to be careful, is all I'm saying. It's like, I think that any farther and we'd be getting into territory I really wouldn't like. Because like there is part of that Star Wars DNA that I think that you can have a lot of power of implication. You know?
Yeah.
Like not to get too explicit, but like, we see Anakin and Padme get married and that's it. That's all we need.
Yeah.
And then we find out she's pregnant later.
Yeah. It's true. Han and Leia share a moment. C-3PO interrupts it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And like, again, I know that may come off as a hotter take to some, but that's always one that I've had when it comes to movies. Even I remember when I started my film crew in college, I had a pretty hard rule on that because I had like, okay, anybody can write a script and we'll make it. Yeah. And I had a pretty hard rule about like, hey, like there's a pretty hard line.
Yeah. We're staying away from that
because, and I remember actually just a small anecdote. There was a film festival that we entered in our first one ever. It was my freshman year of college actually. And I started my film crew my freshman year of college because my whole philosophy was like, hey, I have some equipment that I purchased on my own. I want anybody to come out here and just try their hand. Who cares how bad it is by the end of it? We just want to make stuff. Let's just make stuff. Let's just try it. And we got a ton of people that reached out that first year and joined up. And we entered our school film festival that first year. And I remember I sat everybody down one of our first meetings and I gave that rule. I was like, we're going to stay away from vulgarity, profanity, and we're going to stay away from like nudity and all these things. Yeah. And I got some people left. Like some people were like, yeah, no, like, sorry, like you're going to like stamp down on creativity like that. Our film festival, we won. We got, I was a freshman. We got won Best Picture. We got the Audience Choice Award. And I had people coming up to me during like, there was like a little like kind of carry-in sort of asking me, they're like, because all of the other films, every single one of them was atrociously vulgar.
Interesting.
So vulgar. And I just think there's something to that. I think there's something to staying your hand, the power of implication. And like our film was kind of dark, actually. It was it had some pretty heavy themes in it.
Yeah.
But you just don't need that. And I think that to kind of circle it back and tie it back into what we're talking about here with Star Wars, like there is power behind seduction, and there is power behind like using those. Like there's a reason why a dark sider is using these methods, right? But as far as the audience is concerned, and as far as like you as a filmmaker, I think that there is a line that you shouldn't cross. And like, it's okay to get close to that line. It's even fine to sort of walk it, you know?
Yeah.
And, I mean, have fun with that, right? But I do think that, in my own personal opinion, that's probably as far as they should go.
Yeah.
So there you go. There's a whole lot of facts about me you didn't know. Like people are going to be typing in and be like, man, this guy's such a prude. What in the world?
Got to find this guy.
I mean, what do you think? You didn't really tell me. Like, you think you agree? You disagree?
With what?
Sometimes I feel like I'm just shouting into the ether.
Yeah, I got you. But I mean, I want you to have your thoughts. With that, I mean, that is a tough thing. That part felt a lot like I've said a lot that like, man, this looks like Game of Thrones. Like this felt like Game of Thrones. I felt like especially with the weird line where it was like, you know, if you're not going to kill me, you're going to join me. Or no, can I at least put my clothes back on? Yeah. Or I'm just like, that's kind of funny, but I'm just like, this is odd. That like, it didn't feel very Star Wars, in which it doesn't have, you know what I mean? It doesn't have to feel Star Wars, but it's like, okay, this is interesting. And then I did think it was even wilder that like, he then puts on a white outfit.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which I thought that I think there's something to that. So,
do you think there's something to that?
I think so. Don't you?
Oh, Leslie might think so.
Really?
I have another quote.
I didn't know that.
Okay, so the interviewer says, I wanted to know if there was some intentionality behind the costume choices in this scene, talking about the pool.
Yeah.
As well as because I noticed he comes to the pool and he's wearing all black. And when he leaves with her, he's wearing this beigey, very soft outfit. Yeah. I was wondering if there was meant to evoke some imagery of like the duality of the Force.
And she's in gray. Yeah.
Headland 100%, and she's wearing gray.
Yeah. I swear.
She's also wearing her sister's shoes. It's pretty honestly on the nose. But I think that when you have to execute the turn of the characters in half an hour and really explore the different sides of two people, her darker side, his lighter side, then a very quick visual way to do that is to utilize the color theory and to have her in gray and him in white. And it's like, yeah, Leslie, but also why is this 30 minutes? You didn't have to be.
I don't feel like it should be. At this point, hard 45 minutes for all of them.
But yeah, I thought so too. I was so they did a great job, sort of. I mean,
I think everything with them in this episode was pretty much flawless.
Yeah. It
was just everything else around them, basically. And then I guess to answer your question, because I kind of just tiptoed around it with the whole like that. I agree with you. I don't think that it should have gone any further.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I think you lose a little bit of that.
It's about decency. I think that's the word I was looking for. It's like there's something indecent. Like, you know, there used to be something about that, you know? Like,
yeah. You don't need to know.
And Star Wars.
What were you going to say?
I was just going to say, like, Star Wars, I think, at its core kind of evokes a sort of like older fantasy type era. And like in that sort of genre and era, like people were a lot more like they, what's modest. That's the word. That's the word I'm looking for.
And in here too, this is really interesting thing about this. Cause I don't know why this just like hit me. I mean, when you see Princess Leia in Return of the Jedi and you know what I'm talking about for the first time, that's jarring.
Yeah.
Because it's like, oh, we've never seen her like this. This isn't right to see her like this. Yeah. Huh. I've never like just thinking about that.
But like, you bring up a good point, and I think it kind of connects here. Is like, but also who put her in that outfit?
I know. Oh no, a bad person. Like she didn't do that because she wanted to be in that outfit.
And I've always loved Carrie Fisher's response to that, because there are some people who are like, man, I hated that George did that because like it made her a sex symbol and all this. Like, no. She was like, no, it was empowering, because like I got that on there and like, what did she do? I slay that giant slug.
Yeah.
And I look good while doing it.
Yeah, exactly.
And here, I think it's important to know, like, the person being immodest and being indecent.
He's doing it on purpose.
Is the bad guy.
Yes, and he knows what he's doing. Because like he knows that she's watching.
It does, we have to make sure that narratively doesn't cross over into being indecent to the audience.
Yeah.
And that's important. I think that's an important line that we make sure we do not cross.
Yeah.
And I think that a lot of media today doesn't. Like Netflix originals are the worst about it. Now, that's part of the reason I never watch any of those.
Yeah.
And Game of Thrones, honestly, in my opinion, that first season, it crosses that.
I mean, let's be honest. Unfortunately, they went with the whole sex sells, baby. Like, because everybody was naked in that first season. Yeah. So, but then it is interesting how that does drop off quite a bit. Yeah. Because now we've got you hooked. Now you know all these characters, and now we don't have to show you that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's funny. Something very similar happened in Breaking Bad. Yeah. So in the first season of Breaking Bad, there is one instance of nudity in the first season. It's actually in the first episode. Never happens again.
Yeah.
And there's also a lot more vulgarity in the first season. And it was because that first season, they really didn't have any rules, but then it got kind of or not really super popular after the first season, but it got picked up, and he was told, Vince Gilligan was told to tamper it down a little bit. And I'll say it. I think the show was better for it.
Yeah.
I think limitation breeds creativity. I say that all the time. And that's why, just as an aside, I think a lot of Netflix originals suck because there's no limitation on those.
Yeah.
I don't think that Netflix puts anything, they buy anything. That was a joke for a long time. It's like, if it's moving, it'll buy it.
Yeah.
If it's a moving picture, it'll buy it. And like there was nothing. And there's so much. I remember Bright. You remember that movie? It was going to be the next Star Wars.
Yeah. That's a Max Landis script, wasn't it? With Will Smith.
Yeah. There's another one where it's like every other word is so vulgar.
Yeah.
And I'm like, boy, it just turned me off to it. And I'm like, limitation, sometimes those execs, it can be a perfect relationship. I always say this, like the executive and the artist should have a symbiotic relationship. The executive does have a place. They shouldn't overstep, but they do have a place.
Yeah.
And sometimes those limitations can breed a lot of creativity.
Yeah.
And that's one of them. Find ways. You want to push that line of seduction and all these concepts and being vulgar, being profane, but you can't.
Yeah.
Get close to that. Let's see how much you can push the envelope.
Yeah.
Because that's how you're going to be creative.
And your audience will remember that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then rather than your exec or whatever just telling, you can do anything. Again, that's kind of an aside because that's not really what happened in the show. But, know, this has gone all over the place.
We're kind of here, there, and everywhere.
We're kind of just like, we're
letting the force. The force is guiding us in this episode.
It's the vibes, man.
It is the vibes.
So we haven't mentioned a lot about May. So May and Soul, really, because nothing happened with them.
I know. Because like she's gonna kill him, and then she keeps getting interrupted, and then she's all like, "Hey, tell me about what happened on Brendock. You haven't told me that yet, right?"
I think it is kind of fun that they flip. So like they start in the same spot, right?
Yeah.
They both are May and Osha are trying to kill their sister's teacher.
Yeah, they do.
Cool. And they also start with Osha as a prisoner.
Yeah.
May is free.
Yeah.
Flips.
Yeah. And it's weird that the Jedi is using restraints.
And the Sith, darker one.
Yeah. And the Sith's not really doing much of anything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's kind of fun.
Yeah. I haven't seen Stockholm Syndrome this bad since Beauty and the Beast.
There you go.
Yeah. It's crazy.
So I'm very intrigued by what's going on there.
Yeah.
And I'm very intrigued. I mean, really, this show is carried by Konnor and Soul right now, in my opinion. And despite, I know we've been talking about all this fun stuff that's happening in this episode, and I'd still give this episode about a 4 out of 10.
Yeah.
I think it's slightly better than episode 3.
Yeah.
Konnor and Soul, though, are the soul of the show, in my opinion. I hate to say that it's not the main characters, although May and Osha were way better in this episode than the last episode.
Because they were separate.
Yes.
Yeah.
Osha in particular, May not so much because you had to have the comic relief scenes.
Yeah.
I hated that. I'm like, why? I just do not get it. We didn't need that this episode. It's very frustrating.
Yeah.
This has been what a ride. What a conversation this has been.
There's something else I do want to talk about.
Oh, okay.
Is that I want to talk about the helmet in the final scene.
Oh.
Yeah.
I did forget that.
Yes. Yeah, because I feel like that's important to mention. Because I feel like this is Leslie being a little heavy-handed, but I think it's really interesting with like a way that we're retelling Star Wars. Is that at the end of the episode, Osha is tempted in a cave, and even Kymir says, quotes Yoda, only what you take with you.
Or did Yoda quote Kymir?
Or did he? I don't know. That's the whole thing. That's what I think is kind of interesting.
I'm going to clip that and make everybody mad at us.
Yeah. But like, again, only what you take with you. And again, she's having her cave moment with a helmet. What's Luke see in the cave? He sees his head in a helmet. She puts on a helmet. You hear the breathing. Like it's interesting. What do you think that means? Do you think that she's going to go bad?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think what's cool about this, I think this is fun because Leslie has actually made an interesting parallel here that I don't think is actually super prevalent in the show, but in Leslie's intention is that Sol and Osha are father-daughter.
Yeah.
That's the relationship. And she very intentionally wanted to parallel that to father-son with Luke and Vader. And I'll be real, I don't think that's executed super well. I'm not getting a lot of father-daughter vibes. I mean, some. There's hints.
Remember when he hugged May in this episode? I thought that seemed really like
he had like his picture in his wallet. You know,
I was gonna say it is interesting that like
there are moments, there are breadcrumbs.
Yeah,
I just don't think it's there as much as it should be.
Yeah.
However, I do think that we are leading up to the Empire moment. I mentioned this last week, like Obi-Wan never told you what happened to your father. I think we're going to get that moment.
Yeah.
Except for it's going to be about Sol. And we're going to finally, Sol is going to tell Osha.
Yeah, or
rather, Kymir is going to tell her.
Yes.
Like, Sol never told you what happened to your sister.
Yeah, because I was going to say, it'll be interesting because I wonder if we're going to get the flashback at the same time. That like Kymir will be telling the story and Sol will be telling the story.
That's fun.
Yeah.
I really hope we do get a Kymir Osha check-in. I like that a lot. That'd be neat.
Yeah, because I feel like that would make it a little bit more interesting. And Kymir knows. I mean, they talked about like he's hinted that he knows the whole story.
Yeah.
So it would be interesting hearing.
Well, what I think is really cool is that he definitely knows that Osha was alive the whole time.
Yeah.
This is not a surprise to him. And I think that what's fun is like he says that Osha even makes a comment like, "Oh, is this the same pitch you gave to May, to my sister?" And he's like, "No, like I've tried. I tried a way different approach." And I think part of it is I think that he's being a little sly because she saw his face. He has no other option but to do this. So he's trying to be sympathetic and like or to invoke empathy rather. But really, I mean, he has no other recourse than to do this if he's going to turn her. But he's being very effective.
Yeah.
And I think what's interesting about these parallels. Osha does give in. She does put on the helmet.
Yeah.
Like there's a concept that I don't know if people know about, but at the end of Return of the Jedi, one of George's original ideas is that Luke would turn to the dark side and put on Vader's helmet and say, "Now I am Darth Vader." Horrible idea. I'm so glad he didn't do it.
Yeah.
But it kind of feels like that. And even mirrors a bit of Darth Vader visuals. Yeah. We get that POV shot of the eye slits. And we get that breathing.
Yeah. And then two, we now know what the helmet does. It's sensory deprivation.
Yeah.
Deprivation, right? Okay. All right. That all she can feel is the Force inside there. So what's the Force saying to her? Because the Force, I feel like it has been trying to talk to her this entire time and now there's nothing holding it back. What's it going to say when she has that helmet on?
That's a great point.
Yeah.
Yes, because she mentions, and we also get another tidbit with that she says that the Jedi told her that the Force would fade within her.
Yeah.
When she left. And that's why she hasn't been able to access it. So it's almost like a placebo effect.
Yeah.
Like, well, the Jedi told me I can't use the Force anymore. Like I wouldn't be able to, so I can't. Kymir tells her like, no.
Yeah.
That's not how that works.
Yeah.
What do you mean?
Because she's been sensing, like she sensed the moths, like it's been happening. She's been sensing her sister and stuff like that. Now nothing is stopping it.
And the devil's going to whisper in her ear.
Oh,
it's very interesting because Kymir's right. It is whatever you're going to take with you.
Yeah.
And now Man, good call. Only the Force. She's only going to hear what the dark side is telling her, because that's all she's going to be receptive to right now.
Definitely. Well, look where she's at. I think she's in a place like it's not the cave on Dagobah, but this clearly isn't a good place where she's at.
Yeah.
So,
and she's got this guy. I mean, this is the devil. I mean, this is like we made the comparisons with Palpatine about how he's the devil in a very different way.
Yeah.
This is the seductive devil.
This is gosh darn it. What was Sauron when he became I forget what his name is.
Oh, the giver of gifts.
Yeah, but what was that character's
Lord
name?
Of gifts. Anatar.
Yes, Anatar.
That's Lord of gifts. Yes.
That is this. Yeah, that he is masquerading as someone beautiful, but like something is horrible under the surface.
What did she do, by the way?
With what?
She said she failed. What did she do?
I don't know. Disappointed soul at some point.
I wonder what she did. Part of me wonders if...
Has a Jedi fail?
I guess they've been really hammering home something. She harmed an unarmed person.
Yeah.
That's a good call.
Mm-hmm.
That's better than my idea. I was going to say maybe... I liked the theory that Soul mind wiped, and it was actually Osha that started the fire.
Yeah.
On Brendok. It wasn't May.
Mm-hmm.
But Osha was the only one Soul could save, so he implanted the memories in her that May was the one who started the fire.
Yeah.
But that's kind of, that theory doesn't really work here because... Can
Jedi do that? They may be able to. I don't know.
I mean, KOTOR would like to have a word as far as that's concerned.
Yeah.
I don't know about... I assume Jedi could do that.
Yeah.
But that's called into question because Soul at the very end of this episode is like, I've had 16 years to think about what to say to you. So he's clearly got animosity toward May.
Yeah.
Something she did. So that's, fascinating.
Yeah.
So I want to know what, I think you're right. I'm not even going to continue my line of thought. I think you're right. They've been very specific about one thing over and over and over again about harming an unarmed person.
Yeah. Who'd she harm?
Yeah.
It'd be weird if somehow it was Chimere. That she somehow caused those scars on his back.
No.
But I don't think that could work either.
I think it's something insignificant. It was just an insignificant event. But I think Soul probably went off the deep end with it. Because we've also
he probably saw darkness in her and then was like, this is a bad idea.
But we've been exploring how like dogmatic the Jedi's religion is. And it's like, if you think outside of that at all, then you're horrible and you can't exist. Like that's another theme in this show. Mm-hmm. And so if Osha went outside of that a little bit, maybe Soul went ape on her and just was like,
we can't have this. Down. We're done. Yeah. I know where you came from. I plucked you from darkness. I tried to help you. Just
and if we're
be a mechanic.
We're going from the dad angle. It's like that dad is just, he took it a step too far. Yeah. And that's another bit of his darkness that he's hiding. Mm-hmm. I like that a lot. It's another great, man, we're like, we got a rhythm going on here. Look at this. Look at this.
We're not even following the notes at all.
Yeah. Look at this. Who would have thought?
I know. Who would have thunk it? Look at that. At the top, you weren't very hot on this episode, and look at that. We had a pretty good conversation about it.
I'm still not hot on the episode.
Yeah,
but I think
that's still, I'm just saying that even out of not your favorite episodes of Star Wars, we can still have a decent conversation.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
We always can have good combos about Star Wars. That's what it's all about.
Yeah.
Speaking about having good combos about Star Wars, it's time to hear from the homies at home. Let's take it away with the fan questions.
Clear your mind of questions.
All right. Every week on Instagram, I put up a prompt at Beyond the Dunes C asking you guys for your questions about the topic of the week. And of course, this week it's about Acolyte episode 6. And don't worry, guys, I didn't forget. Here's the mug. What's this mug about? If you're new here, a little bit, even though we've been a little bit on the more negative side. We had a fun conversation, but some people take the negativity a little too far with the Acolyte right now. So to counterbalance that, we've been pulling out some random creators, just shouting them out, giving a little positivity, showing the love, and
we'd like you to go show the love too.
Yeah. Kind of like a raid, like a Twitch raid, if you're familiar with that.
Yeah.
So whenever creator we pop up, we're going to put the info on screen. It'll be in the description down below. Run over to their page. Leave a like. That's all we're asking at the very least. Leave a like, but if you feel so inclined,
maybe
leave a nice comment.
Subscribe, leave a nice comment.
Because all of these people that I put in here are people that I actually follow, like personally. I'm pulling it out this week, sorry.
Oh, I don't get to pull one out?
You can pull the second one.
Oh, okay.
And speaking of just great content creators that I consume personally, ASHTON Sharrett.
Hey.
ASHTON Sharrett. So if you've followed us for recently at all, we've mentioned him a few times. ASHTON Sharrett, he is the music just master. And when it comes to Star Wars music, breaks down music, just all the little, like, you want to know the ins and outs about like the Kylo Ren theme, like about the Knights of Ren theme, why it's in this show, all that stuff. He's the guy to follow.
Yeah.
He's also got a podcast called the Space Opera Music Podcast, the SOMP podcast.
Mm-hmm.
Great stuff. I'm telling you, this guy, there are people out there in the community that are just natural talents, like just people that one day are just going to be huge.
Yeah.
This is one of them.
I was going to say, dude's got a voice.
Yeah.
Like, it's just very distinct.
He's
where
magnetic.
where I'm just like, dude, like, he just sounds cool.
Yeah.
So I think it's neat that he's all about that, all about stuff with your ears, with like the music and stuff like that. And then on top of that, he sounds cool too while he's explaining it. So it's just like boom, boom.
Serendipitous on his part.
Exactly. Just 1-2 combo.
But he doesn't just go into like obvious stuff. Like he's not just going in there like, man, the Imperial March is here and it's also here. That's crazy. No. He goes in note for note.
It's true.
And it's like,
I wish I understood music. Yeah. Because
like music theory and like, it is so cool. And it gives you insights into what maybe the creators were thinking when they did certain things. So much fun. I cannot recommend ASHTON's content enough. He is so, like, go follow him on Instagram. I believe it's Instagram and YouTube are the two platforms he's on. And then his podcast, I believe, are just on, podcast platforms. Mm-hmm. So I will put links to his content in the description down below. Please go check it out. You will not be disappointed. You may pull a duplicate.
It is MORTISFM.
Well, look at that. We talked about him earlier.
Yes.
Grayson and Cole.
Mm-hmm. Over at MORTISFM, another Star Wars podcast.
Another Star Wars podcast.
Yes. And they're also part of our book club.
Yes. The Tales from the Archive crew.
Yes. But yes, gosh, go check these boys out. They're talented. Their last episode, that was a lot of fun.
Yeah. Check out their episode 5 review of the Acolyte.
You're not going to see anything like it.
Short and sweet.
Yes.
That's all I'll say. It's the best review out there.
Yeah, it is a lot of fun.
It's a treat.
I told Konnor even before we started filming, I'm super jealous. Yeah, but no, they are very talented. I think that they both show really good insight on things.
Yeah, Cole, one half of MORTISFM. Mm-hmm. He's got an ability to just put what would take me an hour to say, he can put in 30 seconds, and he can put it much more succinct. He's just got that way. Mm-hmm. There have been many times on the Tales from the Archives where I'd be droning on about a point. I'd be like, this and this and this and this, and Cole would be like, have you considered? And I'd be like, thanks, Cole.
That's
appreciate it.
Yeah.
He just completely ripped my point, right out, and it was way better than how I said it. Mm-hmm. And then Grayson, dude, what a nice guy. They're both nice people.
And I think they have a really nice duality between them. That like the nice dichotomy where they play off each other, and
you feel like
fun.
When you listen to their podcast, you feel like you're just hanging out. You feel like you're just hanging out with the boys, talking about Star Wars. Yeah. You just feel like you're just right there in the room with them. You're having a good time. Mm-hmm. And really, I mean, what more could you want from a Star Wars podcast, right? Like they're a lot of fun.
It's true.
So MORTISFM.
Go check
them out.
Mm-hmm.
MORTISFM, ASHTON Sharrett. Awesome content creators. Go leave a like, leave a sub, leave a comment. Show some love. All right. Homies at home. What are we thinking about Acolyte episode 6? I wonder if people are a little more positive than me. We'll find out. Karib TB, I hope I said that correctly. Do we think the planet that Kymir and Osha are on is Baldemnik? Plagueis Connect.
Wow.
Boom, 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 boom.
I think so.
100%. Don't drop Fred.
I want to say one more thing about that planet.
Excuse me. Sorry.
I'm sorry. I'm like, before Osha and Kymir's situation with the lightsaber, where she has it at his neck, she noticed that she walked out and she's like enjoying the view and everything. Did you notice what she put her hands on? She had her hands on like a railing.
Yeah, guardrail.
Yeah, it's really nice. You know why that's there? Because of OSHA. OSHA laws. Safety. Okay. All right. I tried. Okay. You don't have to go.
I'm just gonna turn the camera
Where are you going? Read. I need you to read the next one. It's nice to know that Beldemic has nice OSHA laws. Keeping everybody safe.
Don't drop Fred. Sorry, Fred, that all of my enthusiasm is now gone for your question. Did May expose herself by asking about Brendock? No, but Kymir did. Has Sol already told Osha everything? No, nothing. Not even a smile on that one. He's allowed to drop, the lamest joke in existence, but I throw down a heater like that. Doesn't even crack a smile.
Repeat it again.
Not even a curve on the. Huh?
Repeat it, please.
Did May expose herself by asking about Brendock? Has Sol already told Osha everything?
Definitely. Or do you not think so?
No. Has Sol already told Osha everything?
Yeah, exactly. So I think that she did expose herself.
Oh, to the first part of the question. Yeah. I mean, she definitely exposed herself there, for sure.
Yeah.
But no, Sol has definitely not told Osha everything. That's been part of the problem.
No, he's a liar. I think that's the whole thing, is that's the guilt. He lied about everything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For sure. Alan DCG. Hi.
Hello.
Is it better to have one director for the whole series? Is something lost with different styles? It's a great question. I love behind the scenes type questions.
I think that it is helpful when one person gets to tell their story.
Okay.
Or at the very least, everybody's on the same page.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm fine with multiple directors. It's writers.
Mm-hmm.
I think the writers need to. It depends. I think there's more risk when you have multiple writers and directors, but you also get a variety of variation, because I think sometimes you can run into an issue where all your characters sound the same.
It's all samey. Yeah.
A lot of TV shows have writers' rooms. So basically you'll have a writer, a central kind of figurehead, right, who comes up with the bullet points for each of the episodes. That goes out to the individual writers. They write the episodes. That goes out to the director. Sometimes those writers direct their own episodes. If you are interested in this kind of stuff, by the way, I know I bring up Breaking Bad a lot. I'm a huge fan of Breaking Bad and Better Call Saul. They have an insider podcast. I loved it. I will listen to that every week when I was watching those shows. And you get a lot of insight about how the sausage is made, basically, with shows like this. Now, it varies, obviously, between different studios and different production houses and things like that, but the basic concept is the same.
Yeah.
So again, I think it really depends. I think sometimes it can work very well to have that variation, but sometimes it can kind of falter. And it really, I think you just need that figurehead. I think that's the key, because you look at something like the sequel trilogy, for example, you didn't have that. There was no plan. You just had a passing of the torch, basically.
Yeah.
That doesn't work. Here you do have that. You have Leslie Headland. She's the showrunner. She's kind of guiding the whole thing.
Yeah.
The problem is, I think, and I could be wrong about this, but I think that Leslie did not structure her show well, or the show does not work as well as a 8-episode formatted show rather than a smaller miniseries or a movie.
Yeah.
I don't think it really has to do with multiple directors or multiple writers. At least that's my opinion.
Yeah.
Sir _Django_Fett, Kymir seems pretty calm for being a Sith. Do you think we will see him full on rage in future battles? I think we kind of already did, right? I don't know about rage. I mean,
he's just letting the force flow. He can't even see when he's under that helmet.
Yeah,
or he can see just a little bit, and so he can't hear, he can't see. It's just him and the force, and it's kind of scary that that's how the force reacts.
Yeah, notice he doesn't have Sith eyes.
No, he doesn't. But
he's not consumed by the dark side.
That's such a funny topic to talk about, like Sith eyes and when they show up and who they show up in and things like that.
Kind of an accident. Do you know that?
Yeah, right.
Because Palpatine had them just because that was part of his character design.
Yeah, and then so did Darth Maul, technically, because of his character design too, right?
And then Anakin, Hayden Christensen suggested it.
And he wanted them. Yeah.
Yeah.
In which, again, powerful moment. So
great.
Yeah, this is a great moment.
See, Palasek, is it just me, or does Osha / May get knocked out or have to wake up confused in every other scene. It does happen a lot, doesn't it?
Often, yes.
I noticed that in the beginning of this happened twice this episode.
Yeah,
actually.
and I was going to say it happened and happened in the last episode too. It opened up, where she was passed out. Yeah,
I did not notice that.
Mm-hmm.
Good stuff. Buer House 12. Again, I hope I'm saying that right. Konnor and Soul are the only reason the show still has my attention. What do y'all think? I'm right there with you personally.
I mean, they're the shining stars of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think they are.
What if their backs hurt?
Right.
From holding the rest up. Yeah.
I unfortunately think that they're almost not enough.
Yeah.
We'll see by the time the show ends.
Yeah.
But it's not looking good 6 episodes in.
I feel like that we should be further along in the story.
Yeah.
I think that's also why more should have happened in this episode, especially with how the last episode happened. Like, this is too much spinning wheels with there only being 2 episodes left.
I'm hoping that these last 2 are just like, oh my gosh, insane.
Well, yeah.
And it's like, well, we had to just,
yeah.
You don't like, this is why we had to spin our wheels, is because these were just so ridiculous. Like, that's why.
And that's what I wonder is going to happen with Obi-Wan. Or like, kind of like with Obi-Wan, where like the last couple episodes were pretty good in Obi-Wan.
Yeah.
But it was like getting
episode,
there. Yeah. It was just getting there was kind of tough.
Yeah.
I know that you liked it more than me, but still.
But no, I do agree. The worst episode in that show is the 4th episode.
Mm-hmm.
For sure. It does slow things down quite a bit.
Yeah.
And has some unnecessary sort of plot movements. Like, it redoes things. That is another issue you see so often with this problem. Is like when you have to stretch out plot lines, is you get repetition.
Characters doing similar things over and over
again. Keep doing them.
Yeah.
Your boy Fitzy. Matt 66801, is Soul's secret going to be that the Coven did nothing wrong and the Jedi attacked over misunderstanding? I definitely don't think the Coven did nothing wrong.
No, I think that they definitely, and I think the Coven even knows they did something wrong. I just think that something is going to happen that night that's going to be taken wrongly on one of the parties, and then someone's going to act rash, and then the other is going to act rash in response.
I think it was already a powder keg to begin with. It was already tense.
Yeah.
And the Sith were there and nudged it.
Yep.
They lit the spark.
Yep.
And they just kind of got out of dodge before things
got
so
real
no
bad.
one could notice them.
Yeah.
That way, I mean, so the Coven thinks the Jedi are the aggressors, but the Jedi think the witches are the aggressors.
Yeah. I'm still hoping that like we get kind of a Darth Bane-esque thing where it's the Sith that pit both these groups against each other, the Jedi and the witches.
I really hope so too.
Mm-hmm.
Really hope so.
That would be a very, like, that's the Bane line. That's what they do.
To me, it feels like there's no other option.
Yeah.
Pro Jason Wingard. Konnor is smart to enforce some guardrails on the island. He was smart to have some OSHA regulations.
I was gonna say, there it is. How fitting that it was OSHA and not May.
When she arrived, he was like, now that OSHA's here.
Yep, exactly.
Gotta have the guardrails
Gotta have the guardrails in place. Can't get in trouble.
So stupid. Whole of, are the Jedi going to blame the deaths on Soul? I think that's ultimately where we're going to land.
Yeah, that like he will be the rogue Jedi. Yeah, that killed everybody.
Yep,
which is sad.
I think that's how we get out of this.
I think it's sad too that like we didn't even see Vernestra examine Kelnaka. Kelnaka's still just sitting on the ship.
Yep,
just hanging out.
Yeah, sad.
Yeah.
I did appreciate, though, that there was a mention of bringing in somebody to take the bodies for a proper burial.
Mm-hmm.
Michael _Kramer 98. What's the power of 2 and why is it important? Great question. So the power of 2, I think it's intentionally ambiguous.
Yeah, but I think too that like yin yangs have been very, very like important this season.
It's a song, I think, right?
Yeah,
the power of 1. The power of 2,
the
power of many.
Yeah. But I think it's just that, like, you know, creating that like prime Jedi, if you will, or that like, you know, that crazy force being.
Well, I loved what you said. I think that you were really onto something there about how like the Sith, by their innate religion, kind of create Dyads. But it's also interesting that by the Sith's nature, also, like you said, like a Palpatine.
Yeah.
They almost limit themselves in that way. It's like, while they're open to it, they can't because they're too selfish.
Exactly. That you can't love, you can't connect with another person like that.
Yeah.
That's why I think it's interesting that like, the whole like Palpatine can't love, he has to clone.
Mm-hmm.
Like he's not even capable of that. Yeah.
What a heater of a line right there.
Yeah. You never thought about that before? Or just like
No, that's great.
Yeah, but it's like, yeah. It's weird to think about.
That's a great point.
Yeah.
That's really great point. Gosh, that's really fascinating. Like if a dyad is created by having sort of that deep connection. First of all, that calls into question why Rey and Kylo are a dyad. Were they born that way? Is that what happened, or did they develop that connection?
I think it was just
that created? Like, did Palpatine or Snoke even kind of pull those strings?
Orchestrated dyad, yeah.
Did the Force do that?
Well, I think too that like, Rey's created at like, it's interesting. Okay. All right. I think I cooked. All right. Ben's a good guy, falls to bad. Rey's a clone of Palpatine, but rises to be good. They're that yin yang of both sides, that the Force twisted both of them from what they were supposed to be.
Okay.
Or at least their journeys twisted them
so
into be opposites.
Intrinsically connects them.
Yeah.
Interesting. What I think is so interesting about that, if the power of two, the dyad, is the Jedi, while they have the capacity for love,
they can't do it.
They can't, because their religion forbids it.
It goes against, because then it makes them too Sith-like.
But while the Sith have the freedom to love,
they can't either.
They are too selfish.
Because it's the opposite. Like love is
love it. No, you are correct.
Love is selfless. Like
love is to will the good of another.
Yes, exactly. What I was going to say is like pure love or true love. That's what I was looking for. The true love is that.
Well, it doesn't mean
self-love.
It's not a romantic love, right?
No.
Because that's why two Sith can create this. Like, to be clear, like it can be a romantic love, but love at the end of the day is to will the good of another, right? And so two Sith could theoretically love one another enough to create a dyad.
Yeah.
In a platonic way, or in a romantic way, in sort of an Osha and Chimere sort of situation.
Yeah.
But isn't that interesting that it's almost off limits? It's almost a forbidden power.
Yeah.
It's like the
that's why they're so rare.
And so the Witch's Coven then has found a way to sort of force this in whatever this power of two ceremony they do. And that almost makes it even more dark.
Yeah.
And, okay, here's a messed up connection that I don't like. Notice the quote that we brought up with May and Osha when they do that. What does Mother Anastasia use? She uses a marriage quote.
Yeah.
A marriage Bible quote.
Yeah.
There when she does the ascension ceremony.
Combines them, yeah. Or bonds them, yeah.
Bonds them together.
Mm-hmm.
Huh. Weird.
Yeah.
I think on the surface level, though, the power of two thing is referring to the rule of two.
Yeah.
When Chimere says it.
Yeah.
Gosh, a lot of.
We're here, there, and everywhere.
So, thank you guys so much. As always, let us know, what did you guys think of the Acolyte episode 6? Did you love it? Did you hate it? Let us know why in the comments down below. And we'll see you guys next time. Same Dune Sea channel. Same Dune time. I said that backwards.
Yeah, you got
Same Dune time. Same Dune channel.
You hear that? It's Dune in time. See you next week.